Good evening. Welcome to the Hemophilia Federation of America Families webinar. Tonight's presentation is Dazed and Confused, Coping with Stress by Dr. Gary McClain. My name is Sandra Wilkes. I'm a program consultant with HFA, and I'm joined by Michelle Berg, our programs director, who will be helping run some of the technology behind the scenes on the webinar tonight. We thank you for attending. We know this is a tough time of the evening for families. We do appreciate everyone taking time to join us tonight. Before we get officially started, just want to go over a few webinar points and helpful hints. Tonight's webinar will last approximately 1 hour. We welcome your participation and questions. Your audio will be muted by our system for the duration of the webinar, as this will help eliminate background noise that may disrupt the presentation. If you have a question, we encourage you to use the question box on the bottom right of your control panel, which is on the right-hand side of your screen. Those questions will get passed along to your speaker. Throughout tonight's presentation, there are several audience poll questions. When the questions appear on your screen, you will have the opportunity to answer those questions anonymously, and we will share the audience's feedback. The title of tonight's webinar is Dazed and Confused, Coping with Stress. Our presenter is Dr. Gary McClain. Dr. McClain is a PhD therapist, patient advocate, and author, specializing in helping clients deal with the emotional impact of chronic and life-threatening illnesses, as well as their families and professional caregivers. He works with them to understand and cope with emotions, to learn about lifestyle and treatment options, to maintain compliance with medical regimens, and to communicate effectively with the medical establishment, and to listen to their own inner voice as they make decisions about the future. He writes articles for healthcare publications and has authored books in the mind-body-spirit realm, as well as a textbook for healthcare professionals titled After the Diagnosis, How Patients React and How to Help Them Cope. He maintains a website, www.just.diagnose.com. Thank you, Gary, for your insight tonight, and with that, I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here. Really happy to have this opportunity to talk to you about one of my favorite topics, which is stress and even more importantly, managing stress, coping with it. So that's where we'll be going. I just want to talk a little bit about what stress is. It's kind of a stress 101, and then I'm going to get a lot more specific in terms of recognizing stress and the things that we can do about stress to better cope with it. So again, that's where we'll go. I just want to talk a little bit about positive stress and negative stress first. We sort of think about stress as a really bad thing, something we shouldn't have or should get rid of. And I want to first talk about the idea that there's positive, again, and negative stress. Positive stress is, for example, if you're getting ready to do a presentation like me, I felt just a little bit anxious, a little bit of stress, and that gives me energy. It says to me, okay, Gary, you need to be focused. You want to do a good job. You got to really kind of harness your resources. It kind of challenges, it motivates, and it prepares you to act. Here's another example of positive stress. If you're walking across the street and the light suddenly changes and you've got 4 lanes of traffic coming at you, I would say get stressed. Motivate yourself and get out of the way. If you're in a very stressful situation at home and you've got to make a quick decision, that stress, some of that stress, the positive stress can again motivate you, can increase your energy. So there's a positive aspect of stress. The negative stress is the stress that just stays triggered. It doesn't shut itself off. And so if you're in that constant state of stress, if everything is dialed up to a 10, and it's a constant high state of alert and alarm, that's not a good thing, because at some point your body doesn't know, is this ever going to calm down? I'll just keep being stressed out all the time. It settles in, and that's when stress becomes a problem. And that's where we're going to focus more, is on the stress that's triggered and doesn't shut itself off, and I'm going to help you to learn how to do that tonight. Just a very quick stress 101 in terms of how stress affects your body. Just think about when you're experiencing stress, excuse me, you may notice that your muscles tense, the back, neck, whatever. You may notice that your stomach hurts. You might notice your heart beating faster. You might kind of hyperventilate. Over time, stress can affect your immune system. Maybe you've been in a situation where you felt stressed for a long time and maybe went through something that was very stressful, and all of a sudden you caught a cold or you felt sick. That sometimes the stress can be your immune system being weakened by the reaction can be your immune system being weakened by the constant stress. So these are just things to think about, all the more reason why we want to manage the stress and to do something about it. When you're stressed, what part of your body do you feel it? This is just a quick poll question. I'm going to give you a minute to think about this. Just think about the last time you felt really stressed out. Maybe something happened, or just had a thought, or for whatever reason. Most likely, you probably felt it someplace physically. You might have felt it in your head, maybe headache, tension. You might have felt it in your neck tension, your shoulders, maybe your back. You might have felt the butterflies or the achiness in your stomach. So just think about for a minute, again, where you tend to feel stress. We all feel it in our own special way. We all feel it differently. And for one I think important here is if you're aware of where you feel your stress, that can be a sign that you're under stress. You may not even be aware of it, but your body is saying, I'm really stressed out, and giving you that sign. So think about that just for a minute, and then we'll move on.
So we will give everybody just a minute. I'll give you a 10-second countdown here in just a second. Okay, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Gary, it looks like we're at 50% for neck and shoulders, and 100% of our participants feel it in their back.
Interesting. Okay, and those are really common areas where people tend to feel stress. We tense up, and when we're tensing up a lot, it causes we feel that it causes tension. Good. Okay. Great. Thanks for that. I'm going to move on. So how do you know when you're stressed? Stress has 3 components. We talked about where you feel it, again, before you're conscious, even before you're conscious of the stress. Just think about the components of stress are emotional, our feelings, anger, frustration, feeling kind of out of control, thinking, concentrating, maybe having trouble focusing, forgetting things, having trouble making a decision, and also behavior. There are different behaviors that go along with stress as well. Maybe blowing up or shutting down. You can usually tell. You can see it in others, and you can feel it in yourself. Again, we all experience stress in our own way. What can we do about stress? Well, that's where we're going to start focusing now. We're going to talk about the causes a little bit more. We're going to talk about where we can take control, and we can't control everything, and that's going to be a really important message tonight. We can't control everything when it comes to life, and recognizing that can go a long way towards reducing stress and creating balance in life. And I know when you're a parent and you're dealing with a lot, it's not always easy to create balance. So I'm going to talk about some realistic ways to help create balance as well. So that's kind of where we're going to go tonight from here. But what causes stress? We're going to talk about the ABCs of stress, and this is called the cognitive behavior approach. And the ABCs of are action, belief, and consequence. And I'm just going to go through this kind of quickly. But if you're interested in learning more, it's also on the internet if you look this up. It's a very, to me, interesting and really helpful approach to looking at stress. A is the action. And think about an action. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say that you're on your way to a wedding, and the wedding starts at 2 o'clock, and it's now 1 o'clock. You think you left plenty of time. You're on the road driving to the wedding. You're going to get there by 1:30. All of a sudden, a flat tire. That's an action. It's just a plain old action. It has no meaning other than a flat tire on the road. We bring our beliefs to it. Here's an example of a belief. This always happens to me. Or I'm going to make a mess of this, it's my fault. Or everybody's going to be mad at me, everybody's always mad at me. It's a belief that we bring to a situation, and there's a consequence. The consequence is feeling bad, feeling frustrated, feeling angry. So what I'm saying is there are a lot of, life is full of all kinds of different actions. We bring meaning to the action by our perceptions, by our beliefs, and that gives us consequences. So the idea here is to think about when something happens, what are my expectations? Is my expectation I should always be perfect? I'm not allowed to be human. I'm always the one that messes up. And if we have these beliefs, again, we're going to have certain consequences. And that's kind of one way to look at stress. What are my perceptions? I'm going to talk about how to loosen up on those beliefs and on those self-expectations, and maybe make things a little easier on yourself. What are some of the causes of stress? One is helplessness and uncertainty. And I don't think anybody understands better what it's like to live with uncertainty than someone who is living with a chronic health condition. Because every day can be an adventure. Some days we think we're prepared, we think we've done everything right, and then we get a surprise, sometimes sometimes a pretty scary surprise. So I think anyone who's living with a chronic condition is just living with a certain level of uncertainty. And the uncertainty, again, causes stress, depending on how we deal with it. So control, helplessness, uncertainty. One of the things I try to help clients with is just accepting that we can't control everything in life, and that can often be the starting point. Chronic conditions teach us that we think we're in control, we want to be, but we're not. What I talk about with my clients is that when we fight for control, we create stress. And the fight for control is kind of like having an internal battle going on inside all the time. Again, it's that belief that I talked about earlier. An action happens, I should be in control. The heat breaks down, the car breaks down, something gets broken. I should have prevented this. I should have been in control. Well, no, we're not always in control. And that battle, that insistence, that belief I should be in control, again, causes stress. So I think one of the most important lessons is that we're not in control. I often ask my client, is your middle name God? Because if it's not, then maybe you're not in charge of everything. Maybe you're not in fault for everything. Maybe it's not all on your shoulders. Maybe you're allowed to be human here. So so again, take a deep breath and a sigh of relief and say, I don't have to be in control of everything. I can be anyway. Let's start there. Another cause of stress is lack of communication. And I just want to remind you, and you're the experts here, so you can remind me as well. When one member of the family is living with a chronic condition, everybody is living with a chronic condition because it affects everybody in the household. You're the experts on that as well. What I find with families, and we'll talk about this again later, is that there's an elephant in the room often, and that elephant is helplessness, it's uncertainty. It's always hovering around. It's like a big, ugly elephant, a pink one, that is in the middle of the room, and nobody really wants to acknowledge, to talk about that elephant. So what happens is that when everybody's kind of let's not rock the boat here. Let's not talk about scary things. Let's not talk about bad feelings. Then a lot of things don't get talked about, and we kind of tiptoe around each other. Well, I can't bring that up. There's often something that I think families kind of get caught up in is we should think positive. We should be always positive. What I tell people sometimes is that positive thinking is like somebody standing over your head with a big rubber bat. And every time you say how you feel, if it's not positive, you get banged over the head with a rubber bat. And what I emphasize here is that it's okay to be human, and sometimes we're scared. Sometimes we have scary feelings and bad feelings, and we're frustrated. I think members of the family need to be able to talk about that, to have those conversations. When we don't, the result is walking on eggshells, and it's stress. So another key to stress is communicating. We'll get into that more. I'll talk to you about how to do that better. Another cause of stress is not asking for help. And again, here's that belief that I see parents having, especially mothers, is I'm supposed to be perfect, supposed to be in control. I've got to be the hero here. I've got to be responsible for everything, for everybody's feelings, for everything that gets done, for everything that might or may not happen. It's all on my shoulders. And I find, especially moms feeling that way, that they always have to be on their A game. And I think it's important that to recognize that you don't always have to be the hero. It's okay to ask for help. Others can share the burden, and assuming that they can't or they won't, again, causes more stress. So here we have that making assumptions as well. So asking for help, another key to not asking for help, another key to stress. So I'm going to maybe take a little step back again and do a poll question with you. Now, we're going to talk about some of the ideas on this list in a couple of minutes, but I'm going to ask you before we go further is where could you let up on yourself to help reduce your own daily stress? And like everybody, just to think about what can I be doing in my life that maybe I wouldn't have to be so stressful. I'm going to go through a list. These are the ones that I hear from my clients the most. One is to take some time each day for myself, and that might be an accumulation of 1 hour a week. Maybe that would be 10 minutes a day. Maybe it would be 30 minutes a day. Who knows? That you do something that's just for you. Letting my house be a little bit messy. Maybe the laundry goes a couple extra days. Maybe the vacuuming doesn't get done for a couple of days. Maybe things aren't perfect all the time. Maybe getting takeout for dinner once a week. Maybe once a week we order pizza. We go out and stop and get hamburgers or something on the way home. Asking for help instead of trying to do it all. Maybe we divide up some of the chores. Say, could you help me with this for a change? Or how about if you did that? Or maybe we ask a parent, a grandparent to come in for the day and help out with something. And here's a big one, saying no more often. Maybe taking a step back once in a while and saying, do I really have to say yes to this? Do I really have to do this? Is this something I could say no to? I'm going to give you a minute to think about these. And if you're not sure, that's okay too. I'm going to give you some help with that over the next half an hour or so. So think about it.
So this is Santa. I'm going to give you another 10-second countdown. We're going to start with 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll see what everyone says. So we're in thirds here, Gary. A third of our audience says that letting my house be a little more messy could help them reduce their stress. Another third says asking for help instead of trying to do it all. And our remaining third says saying no more often. And I just want to say thanks for giving me permission to let my house get a little more messy.
That's always a winner. That's great. Those are big ones. It's just kind of looking at priorities and saying, what do I need to do? What can I let slide a little bit? And that whole no thing, I think, is so important too. Do I really have to say yes to every invitation, to every opportunity to volunteer, to bring cookies? Could somebody else bring the cookies? It's just kind of looking at where can I give myself a break. So let's talk about managing your stress a little bit more, starting with your perspective. Here's something that I love talking about. It's the 4A approach. And I'm going to go back to that situation where we're on our way to the wedding and the car has just gotten a flat tire. In any situation, we have 4 options. One is we can adapt. Maybe we can adapt to the situation. With a car, maybe we can say, well, okay, let's pitch in and let's change the tire. It's here. What are we going to do? We could accept it. We could say, well, you know, we have food with us. It's a nice road. Why don't we just hang out for the afternoon and have a picnic and back? And let's have a impromptu tailgate party. We could avoid. We could just say, well, I'm not going to go at all. This is a good opportunity. Now I didn't want to go anyway. Or at this point, maybe it's too late to avoid. You know, we're on our way to the wedding. We can't avoid it. We said we'd go. Alter, we could call and say, you know, we're going to be an hour late. Would you mind doing the wedding at 4 o'clock? We'll be there by then. We're going to need to take a shower, be a little dirty. I don't think it's going to hurt to go 2 hours. Maybe we can alter it. So the point is we always have a choice. And we can look at it from different perspectives. Or maybe we don't. Maybe we don't have a choice. I think that's the point. We can adapt, which means to change ourselves. We can accept, meaning we can get used to it. We can avoid, meaning getting around it somehow, or we can, you know, maybe we can alter it. But I think so often we go into a situation saying, I need to adapt, I need to fix it, I need to change something here. And there's sometimes we can't. We have to learn how to be with something. So, you know, so again, the point here is how much control do you have? Can you loosen up? Can you go with the flow on it? And I have to tell you, I give everything that stresses me out the 4A test. I say, am I just blindly frustrated here? And am I really looking at what choice, what options I have in this situation? I think this is like the key to happiness, is looking at every situation. How much control do I have here? Here's another way to look at it. It's the stress grid. And it's looking at what's important. Is it important? Is it not important? Do I have control or do I not have control? So if something falls in the grid where it says important and control, boom, I'm going to jump on that. I can do something. It's important and I have control. I'm going to do something about it. If it's important and I don't have control, then, well, maybe I need to look at adapting. Maybe I need to look at altering. If it's not important and I do have control, then I can say, it's kind of like the housework. Okay, it's not important, I have control here, but you know, maybe there are other things that are more important that I should spend more time on. If it's not important and I don't have control, do I really have to get upset about this? So it's kind of like looking, maybe putting things on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is low, 10 is high. And deciding really how important is this, how much control do I have. So these are kind of things that can help you look at your perspective and what you can do, what you can't do, and what you really don't even need to do as these things come up. And I had a client a while back who would she's a mother living with a child with a chronic condition, and she would come for her session every week, and she would call me 3 days before to confirm. She would call 2 days before. She would call the day before. And I said to her, I said, it's fine if you want to confirm a lot, but I said, you confirm a lot. And she said, this is the one thing I have control over. So much of my life I don't, but I know things like this, I can be in control. I can be making sure that's still going to happen, that I'm there in time. And I said, yes, absolutely. But you add a lot of stress to your life when you are so insistent on being in control over everything. If everything becomes a potential crisis, your body is saying, okay, everything's a crisis, I need to stay on red alert all the time. I said, we have the appointment, maybe we don't need to confirm so often. Maybe we don't have to worry about this so much. And just kind of taking a look back again at what's important, what's not important. Let's look at some techniques for managing stress. Look directly into the face of helplessness and uncertainty. And what I find with clients is that they often don't really think about what they can control and what they can't control. And I think the idea of being out of control is so scary to them that they just avoid the whole thought. They avoid the whole idea of not having control. And I think when you don't look at that, don't really look at helplessness and uncertainty and just say, I'm in control, I'm not going to think about this. Again, it just builds up more stress in your body. Again, I was always on alert. I think that if you saw the Harry Potter movie, I think at one point in the first, I think it's the first movie, one of the witches who's teaching Harry how to be a better witch says something like, face your fear, and it's kind of the same idea. Face it down, and even what I encourage clients to do, even in specific situations, again, is to look at what do I have control here, what do I don't, what do I not have control, where am I helpless, and accepting that there are certain things that I just can't change, that I can't fix. Certain things are just going to be uncertain. And I often use techniques, which we'll talk about a little bit later, to help clients be with the idea, to face the idea that there's a certain amount of uncertainty. It's very scary not to know. And I think as human beings, we always want to know. We want to know what's going to happen, what's the potential outcome. If I do this, will I get that back? And life doesn't work that way. Another way I look at this is living life on life's terms. Again, looking at where we can fix things, where we can't, and being able to be with that, to accept that. So I think what I'm trying to say is that when you admit that you're helpless, then you can look at where you're in control, because then you can say, okay, I can't fix this. Now can I free up my mind to look at what I can do? This is a really big one, finding a safe place to express your feelings. And when I've done these workshops for parents, I'm just amazed at how often parents will tell me that they really don't have anybody to talk to, that they don't want to talk to their relatives, their families about this, about their fears, their frustrations. They don't want to burden other people. And so they're kind of walking around like, it's kind of like walking wounded. And I think part of this is feeling like, well, this is my burden, or I should always be perfect, or if I talk about it, then I'm going to make it real, or maybe I'll make something bad happen if I talk about bad things, or I'm supposed to be the strong one, or people won't respect me if I, people won't respect me if I don't do anything, if I don't take charge, and if I'm not in control. So it's really, it's sad when I talk to people who just don't really have anybody to vent with. And part of it is venting. Some days we just have bad days, and we just want to call somebody and say, I'm having a really bad day, I'm angry and I'm frustrated, and life just feels like the pits right now. Or I'm excited, something good happened, share that with me. And whether that means finding a friend who's a good listener, a family member, maybe outside of your immediate family, who's a good listener. What I encourage people to do is find somebody they can talk to who can listen without trying to fix them, without trying to judge them, without trying to tell them what to do, but to just be a good listener. This is where, this is why therapists are around, that we provide that safe place. But I think family members, friends, support groups can also do that. And that's why I'm always so happy when I see parents getting involved in support groups and in associations, because we find people who are like us, who are on the same path, traveling the same journey, who can be good listeners. So I'm really, I'm spending a lot of time on this slide. It's just so important to have somebody to talk to. And that's a great way to release the tension and to help you to have some perspective. Here's another really important one. It's self-talk. And right now, while you're listening to me talk, you're having a dialogue with yourself. You're probably wondering where I am. You're wondering what I look like. You're wondering what you're going to have for breakfast tomorrow. You're wondering when you're going to get the kids ready for bed. You're thinking about school tomorrow. You're thinking about all kinds of things, and you're listening to me. You've got a whole multitasking dialogue going on. But one of the things that we do as humans is we talk to ourselves a lot. We give ourselves messages. and we evaluate situations. Again, I'm going to go back to that belief that I talked about, these beliefs, I have to be perfect. People are going to be upset with me if I mess this up, or if I let something drop, a catastrophe is going to happen. That's an example of the kind of self-talk that we often have in stressful situations. What we do is the event occurs, whatever it is, whether it's something at home, something happening, something with our child, and then we start talking to ourselves. And part of that is to help us mobilize and figure out what to do, but there are also messages where we start to say, don't mess this up, and you should have avoided this, and why did you let this happen, why didn't you plan ahead? The messages that we use that kind of beat up on ourselves. And so, it might help to think about this when you're in a situation like this, and maybe afterwards think, now when I was really stressed out in that event, what was going on in my mind? What was I thinking about what was going on in my mind? What was I telling myself? Was I telling myself that you're going to blow it, or you should have avoided it? Or am I telling myself, okay, you're going to be all right, you've been through this before, you know what to do, you've got support, this is not a catastrophe, or maybe it is a catastrophe and you're going to mobilize yourself, but to think about what's the priority here? Is this something that I have control over? Is this something I don't have control over? Is this something I can figure out, something that I can let go and figure out tomorrow? It's kind of like going through kind of a reasoning process with yourself and saying, I can do this, I've been through it before, or I'm prepared for this, or I've got help. And that's where the self-talk comes in. And I often will ask clients to write down their self-talk. Think about what goes on in your mind during an average day. What do you tell yourself? And write that down, and then we work together on changing the self-talk. You may find some messages that are always there. Those beliefs, I've got to be perfect. I've got to do it right. Nobody can do this but me. We write those down, and then we start coming up with antidotes for them, because some of these negative messages are like poison, and we fix poison with an antidote. So we come up with, what can I do about them? What can I say back to myself? How can I talk myself out of these negative messages? So think about that. Just think about your self-talk and how you can be a friend to yourself and not a constant critic. Turn off that critic's voice. Again, I mentioned this earlier, and I'm just going to bring it up again, and I'm going to bring it up one more time in a few minutes. But remember that family members are dealing with their own helplessness. We're all in this together, and that's something that I say and I write a lot. We're all in this together. And when we feel helpless, sometimes we don't act at our best. We're not on our A game. When somebody feels helpless, sometimes they snap, or they shut down, or they avoid, they run and hide for a while, or they jump in and they micromanage, or it's a whole list. And if you think about some of the behaviors that you see in your own house or in yourself when you're feeling helpless, when you're feeling uncertainty, keep in mind that other family members are feeling the same way, only it's coming out a different way. And sometimes especially when I'm working with couples, I'll say to them, how do you behave when you feel helpless? How does your spouse behave? How do the kids behave when they feel helpless? And understanding that can help us be more compassionate towards each other, to recognize, okay, you're not at your best, but you're feeling helpless. I'm not at my best. I'm feeling helpless. And just understanding that we're all in this together. We're all struggling here at times. We're all dealing with a lot. I think can help to enhance just the whole idea of, again, being compassionate, being understanding with each other. That being able to take that step back and be understanding, I think, is can be such a great way for us all to just get along and support each other in stressful situations. We're all dealing with this. Again, to ask for help. When I have a newly diagnosed client or a client who's been dealing with either as a parent or as someone living with a chronic condition, I sit down with them and we put together a support plan. And the support plan includes looking at things that they may need help with at times, whether it's things around the house, whatever it is, but really sitting down and looking at what do I need help with, and the emotional stuff. What kind of emotional stuff do I need help with as well? Again, this is something that I think we often just don't want to think about. We don't want to think about needing help. I think we get kind of superstitious about it. We think, well, if I think about needing help, I'm going to create some kind of energy and I'm going to need help all the time, or I'm going to turn myself into some kind of a needy person. We're all human. We all have needs. And I think something you may want to think about, if you would, is sometime maybe, if you haven't done this already, is to sort of go off by yourself or with your spouse or a partner, with a family member, and say, what do we need help with? What do I need help with at times? And maybe make that list. Nobody wants to admit it, but we all need it. And then who can help me? If I need somebody to watch the kids for a while, if I need some help around the house, if I need to take a break, if I need somebody just to be an additional emotional support, if I need somebody who can just be fun for a few hours with us when I'm not feeling very fun, what kind of help do I need and who could do that? Really look at what resources do I have that could provide that. It's really getting, I think, really practical with yourself and really kind of analyzing and having a strategy here, as well as the emotional stuff. Again, who can I call upon? Who can I call when I just need to talk or just need to vent for a while? Takes some strategy here, some planning, and asking some questions that we don't always want to think about. Here's something that I find helpful in my own life because I'm really busy, and as I know you are, and which I recommend to clients a lot. Again, it's to allow yourself to be a human being. Let's start there. And to use what I call the 80-20 rule. It's deciding what's important and what you can let slide. And I'll tell you how I came upon this myself. A few years ago, in 2008, my mom got very sick, and we recognized that she wasn't going to be able to live on her own anymore, and we had to arrange for assisted living and things like that. And I was traveling back and forth between New York and Michigan, and it was a very hard 2 years. But at one point, one of the nurses that was helping my mom, she saw, I was asking her questions and kind of, she saw that I was getting very kind of caught up in my stress, and she said, "Look, Gary," she said, "here's what I tell my patients. Here's what I tell adult children of parents who are facing illness. If you can get 80% of it right, you're doing really good. You're not going to get 100% of it right. It's impossible. But if you can get 80% of it, you're doing good. So you need to sit down and decide what 80% is and what 20% is, and you need to go easy on yourself. You're not helping anybody here when you're getting so stressed out." That was so helpful to me, and I talk about the same thing with parents. Again, the housework, maybe that's in that 20%. Doing everything right for an upcoming family reunion, whatever, cooking and baking, whatever. Maybe that's a Kentucky Fried Day. Maybe there's some things we can do that we don't always have to be perfect. So what's 80%, what's critical, and what's 20%, and what can slide, and just kind of looking at that and maybe putting your own little kind of spreadsheet together, your own pie chart of your life. And what I would encourage you to include in that 80%, though, is a little time for yourself. That's not in the 20%. The 20% is not your own self-care. So please don't go in that direction here. Part of that 80% is your own self-care. We're going to get more to that. Build a support network. I'm really surprised sometimes and saddened when I see parents who don't have a support network. And I've touched on this already, so I'm not going to beat this slide around too much. But again, I just feel like parents aren't getting support. I gave a presentation a few years ago at a hemophilia conference, and I did a group with parents, and a lot of, probably 100 parents or more came in the room, and I looked at some of these parents kind of sitting by themselves, not talking to anybody, and they just looked like walking wounded to me. And I just had to ask myself, are these parents getting the kind of support that they need? They're hopefully getting support here at this conference. Hopefully they're talking to people and sharing. But I wonder if they're really getting the support that they need in their daily life. And I just, again, encourage people, as part of that asking for help, is to build a support network and maintain it. Stay in touch with people. I think parents who are having a lot going on, they sort of, they isolate. It becomes all about the family because there's so much going on, and they don't want to burden people, and they don't take time. It just seems like too much. Have a support network. Reach out and keep the network going. Take care of yourself. Get sleep. Get exercise. Eat healthy. Have a little fun. Have some balance. And again, this is where I think parents let themselves down, is that they're just in a state of exhaustion all the time. They're not taking out 10, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes for themselves. And again, is this a time where a grandparent could help, or where there's a neighbor who could come over or something and spend a little time, or family friends, something. Sometimes I find that family members, extended family members, would love to help out, and they feel like they shouldn't volunteer, they don't know how to. And just take it even after the kids go to bed. Can you let the housework go and take a nice warm bath for half an hour or something? Listen to some music or something, and just have a little fun of your own. Are you eating healthy? Are you trying to get a little exercise? Just, again, your own self-care. And we talk about this as therapists also, that whenever there's a conference, there's always a workshop on care for the caregiver, because those of us in helping professions, we're like you. We don't take good care of ourselves. It becomes all about everybody else. But if you're not taking good care of yourself, you can't be as effective as you need to be or want to be for other people as well. So here's a question for you. What techniques do you use to cope with a stressful situation? Maybe as we were talking, you were thinking about some of the things that you do, or some of the things that you'd like to do. So why don't we take a minute and do a little poll question. Again, what techniques do you use? And if some of these techniques are techniques that you think you'd like to or would be good ones for you, think about that too. The idea is to get the ball rolling. This might include different kinds of relaxation exercises, whatever that would be for you, just laying down for an hour, half an hour, or taking a walk, or maybe you do meditation or something, who knows. Getting support, giving somebody a call, doing something fun, something you enjoy for a little while. This can be something active, or just knitting or watching TV, doing some kind of exercise, giving yourself a little pep talk, just sitting down and saying, okay, you've done a good job here, you're doing the best you can, you're doing pretty good, things are going good, just giving yourself a pep talk. So why don't we take a minute or so and think about that. I'll be really interested to hear what you come up with on this.
This is Sandra, and I'm going to give you that 10-second countdown again. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll see what responses we have. And we're at a third again, Gary. Relaxation exercises for a third of our audience. Doing something fun and exercising for a third of our audience tonight.
Okay, great. So I'm hearing people are feeling maybe a little bit like they need to get out and just kind of get things moving and get themselves motivated. So good. Those are all good things. And relaxation, whatever you do for that is good. I think just having in mind, I'm going to do something every day for myself, even if it's just a few minutes, gives you a sense of greater control and just greater energy as well. Let's talk about managing stress at home now. I mentioned this before, but I just think it's so important. I can't stop myself from bringing it up again. is that, again, stop ignoring the elephant in the room. Anger, guilt, disappointment, fear, chronic conditions bring up all of that. And I think if you're not talking about it, those feelings just kind of go underground, and they get bigger, and they get more out of control, and they just need to be released. Because when you keep it inside, they just cause more stress. So what I encourage you to do is just talk. I think parents need to just sit down and say, you know, I need to vent for a few minutes. It's not accusing anybody. It's just saying, here's how I feel. I'm frustrated, or I'm scared, or I'm disappointed, or I'm, you know, angry about whatever. Just it needs to be talked. And I think parents really can also help their children to talk about feelings as well. And just try to create a home where people can have their feelings and talk about them. And it doesn't have to be accusing. It doesn't have to be making anybody at fault. It's just about how I feel. You're the expert on this as well, so I'm preaching to the choir here. But what I find, what I do want to talk about is that children are perceptive. They know what their parents are feeling. And I have so often had parents say to me, wow, you know, I've been really carrying this around, and we've been talking about it behind the bedroom door, but we didn't think the kids were aware of how we were feeling, or how worried we were, or how frustrated we are about something, or how tense we are. And the kids know it too. And sometimes kids talk about it. They often don't, because kids feel like, well, I need to have a positive attitude here too. Or, you know, I don't want to cause problems. I don't want to make waves. I don't want to upset mom and dad. And so, again, but they know what their parents are feeling. They're talking among themselves. What happens sometimes is that when kids see that their parents are upset, they feel like they're at fault. And that's just something I really want to emphasize here, is that not only are kids aware, but they also may feel that it's something they did. And this could be the child who's living with a chronic illness. Well, if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't feel this way, or the other kid's feeling, if I did more of this or didn't do that. But kids know, and this is why I think parents need to recognize that they think they're hiding how they're feeling, but they're not. And again, it's the importance of talking and sharing and supporting each other. Listening is important too. I've often seen kids who I can tell when I met with families, the kids feel like my parents don't want to hear anything bad. And I watch the parents. Automatically, the kid starts to express something that might be negative or scary or bad, and the parents start to talk over them. And I've seen parents do this, adults do this with each other as well. It's like, I'm going to protect myself, or I'm going to let's protect each other, so let's not bring this up. And they don't listen, they don't encourage listening, or they get defensive right away. Maybe one parent is talking, maybe it's a couple talking together, and automatically the other one feels like, okay, you're accusing me here, I'm not going to listen to this. And it's like, no, put the defenses down, open up to each other. So again, it's just the idea of listening, and I really encourage parents to listen to their children, encourage them to talk and to listen. A vision for the future. I just think we all need to have things to look forward to. And I think it's very easy when we're dealing with a lot of stress, a lot of challenges, I'm going to say, to have a very sort of day-by-day, let's get through it. Let's just get through this. And I think it's important to have things to look forward to. What are we planning? Is there something we're planning for a couple of weeks from now? Is there something we're planning for summer? And I think also just having a vision for the future. What kind of environment do we want to create? What are we hoping for? What do we want for each other? What do we want for our family? What are we building towards? I think, again, let's think big picture here. Let's think of possibilities here as well, because I think the day-to-day challenges, if it's all about that, again, that just creates more stress, because it's all about challenges. Let's look at what's possible here, short-term and long-term. And let's talk about it together as a family. What are we looking forward to? What's possible? make the new normal normal. And I think the new normal changes often with families. And you see this incredible visual right here. And I've been to these hemophilia camps, and I've witnessed this, where children and parents are learning to infuse. It's such an incredible experience to watch. It's life-changing for me. It's been life-changing for me to watch. And I think a chronic condition of any diagnosis brings a new normal, and the new normal changes often. Now we're in a new normal. And I think children find a certain value in established routines, and so I encourage parents to have certain routines. You know how kids want to have the same thing for dinner every night, or they want to do this the same every day, or the same. Kids like a certain level of sameness. And I think that as much as parents can build in certain routines, even if it's sharing chores, certain chores. Okay, you take the garbage out every night. You do this, I do this. On Saturday, we all do this together. On Sunday night, we all have this to eat. Monday night is pizza night, whatever. Having just a certain amount of routine, I think, is so important in a family, and it just gives kids a sense of sameness and comfort. Familiarity is the word I'm looking for. And I think that provides a sense of comfort, and that helps reduce stress. And teaching kids the value of flexibility as well when things change. Okay, this is our routine, but this one is going to have to change. Let's pitch in together. And even giving kids a certain amount of input. Okay, we have to do things differently. How can we do that? What would you like to do? How could you help? So again, it's making this a family, kind of a family decision as well. Respect, compassion. Everybody has ups and downs. We're all going to have good days and bad days. And I think just, again, reminding each other and ourselves that we're all feeling a little helpless here at times. We're all scared at times. We're all a little frustrated. We're all not sure what the next step is. Everybody's going to have ups and downs. We all express that differently. Can we accept our own imperfection? If we do, it's a whole lot easier to accept someone else's imperfection too. And I say this to myself often, and I say this to other people, that don't make yourself always be perfect. Accept that you're not perfect, and let other people not be so perfect. That's compassion to me. It's giving ourselves space and giving the people we care about space as well. Again, I mentioned this earlier, don't forget the siblings. Bring them into the discussions. Make them part of the decision process. How can we help? How can we all pitch in here? What would you like to do? What would you like to do? How could you help? Make this all, again, a family process, because we're all living with this. I'm going to start winding down, but I have a couple of things that I just think are really important that I want to make sure that I talk to you about. I'm going to go back to that expression that I use of the walking wounded, and also that example I've used of these beliefs, like I have to be perfect, that we walk around with as well. Sometimes the going gets pretty tough. I'm going to ask you to think about your own personal support network now, because I'm getting into now the importance again of support and bringing in additional resources when you need support as well. So another last poll question. How would you rate your personal support, your emotional support? I'm going to talk about emotional support right now. How would you rate that right now? Would you say you have a great personal support network? Would you say it's okay? Would you say it's not so great? That's a hard question. It's a little bit of soul searching here right now.
Once again, I'll do a final countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See what we have here. I tell you what, this is the law of thirds tonight, Gary. A third not great, a third are doing okay, and a third not so great.
Okay, all right, fine. Well, I appreciate the honesty, and I'm going to address that in a couple of different ways. But I hope that I've already given you some ideas about support. That whether it's a local organization or a wonderful organization like what we're here for tonight to talk, that's sponsored tonight, HFA, and local support groups, whether it's family members, friends. I find that if you really think about it, there's usually somebody who would be happy to be a listener and would be happy to help out. And it's a matter of reaching out and saying, I need a little help here. I need a listener. I need somebody to give me a hand with this. I need somebody to have coffee with me. That there's often a lot of people out there who are willing to be that person. I want to talk about unacknowledged stress. We've been talking about that all night, but I just want to kind of end with a little harder edge here, that if you're not acknowledging stress, dealing with it, and it interferes with communication, as we talked about that elephant in the room, it affects health. It makes it harder to make decisions. So if you're letting all of that stress build up and you're not getting support, this is kind of this is something I just really want to emphasize, that it even makes it harder to function the way that you want to function and the decisions that you want to make. Watch for signs of anxiety and depression in yourself and in your children. Check often, and if you go on the web and look under symptoms of depression, symptoms of anxiety in children, you'll see a lot of good information. But to be watching for those signs, here's some that I witness often. Feeling hopeless or helpless, and you see this in kids even when they're kind of like, oh, I don't know, I don't really care, or I don't know, I don't really want to try, or you watch them, you watch them kind of shutting down. In yourself as well, when you're feeling that way, like I can't, I don't know what to do anymore. Taking frequent mental health days from work if you're calling in sick or your spouse is calling in sick a lot. Losing control, breaking down, just all of a sudden just blowing up, or breaking down crying, or just having to go off and not being able to function emotionally for a while. Again, shutting down. Difficulty in relationships, and part of difficulty in relationships is not having relationships, is isolating, not calling people back. Somebody calls us and leaves a message and you don't return the message. Just so you see that creeping in. And here's a big one that I worry about with parents and ask pretty direct questions about this, as I ask, are you eating? What are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you not sleeping well? And are you using any drugs or alcohol? What's your drinking like? And I ask that very directly with clients, because these are areas that sometimes we're not even aware. Oh yeah, I used to have a glass of wine on Saturday night. Now I have 4 of them, and I kind of binge a little bit. Or I used to have a glass of wine or a beer or something, and now I have 4 of them actually. Or I'm heading to the basement and I have 6 of them in my workshop or something. I ask questions like that because these are ways that stress sneaks into our life and we haven't really thought about it. Maybe I'm skipping meals, or maybe just not hungry. Important things to look at, and to look at in your children as well. Here's what I often say to clients, and always in workshops, is when the going gets tough, the tough go shopping, shrink shopping. And if you're not able to you're not functioning as well as you need to, you want to, you're not feeling on your A game, and even the 80-20 rule is not working, you're still just feeling like you're just not doing well, maybe it's time to reach out and ask for some help. And that's what people like me are here for. Let me just focus on this one more time. There are lots of mental health resources. You can always call your insurance company and ask for the behavioral health line. They will usually make recommendations of therapists who are taking clients. You can go to your family doctor and say, I have to be honest with you, I'm really depressed. I'm really anxious. I'm not functioning as well as I used to. how can you help me? And your physician can make a referral or may have some ideas for you. Reach out to local community mental health resources, but don't go through this alone. PTSD, we find in the reading, the research is showing that parents with children with chronic conditions at times suffer from PTSD as well. They've been through scary situations where they had to mobilize and the situation was life-threatening, or they're living with a constant fear. This can cause PTSD, which is a whole mental health diagnosis. If you suspect that, if you're worried about that, again, a mental health professional can answer that question as well. Don't go through this alone. Get support. This is me. If you want to send me an email, if you have a question that you'd like to ask, or if you'd like to check out my website, feel free. But always, I welcome email messages. Always feel free to, or my number's on the website. Give me a call. I'm happy for that too. I'm happy to help. I just want to say that I've been so honored to be here tonight, and honored for the opportunity to talk with parents who I just respect so much and what you're doing. And if I was able to just give you one little crystal of help, one little drop of information that will somehow help you, then I feel blessed to have had that opportunity. I just have one last slide to show of upcoming events.
Yeah, I will take it back over here, Gary. I just want to say thank you to you. This has been a very informative and helpful evening tonight. So thank you for your expertise and helping us. And again, I'll thank you for giving me permission to not mop the floor tonight. So I do appreciate that. And wanted to acknowledge our support from our sponsors, Novo Nordisk and AHF Healthcare, for their financial support in helping put on these programs that we at the Hemophilia Federation of America are able to do. So we do have a few minutes left for questions. If anyone wanted to send in questions using the question feature over there on the right-hand side of the screen, we're happy to take those, and I can pass those along to Gary. So that's there. Just want to highlight a few upcoming events. Tomorrow we actually are hosting a Twitter chat with the National Hemophilia Foundation talking about their upcoming Washington Days and Advocacy program that's coming up next week. So 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, hop on Twitter and have a chat with us. It's kind of fun. We do it for about an hour. Next week is Washington Days, and you may not know that the Hemophilia Federation offices are in D.C., and we recently moved into a new office space, and we'll be hosting an open house next week from 12 to 6 p.m. If you're coming to D.C., we would love to see you, and come check out our new digs and meet our staff. We'll be happy to see everyone. And then March kicks off Hemophilia Awareness Month, and like last year, HFA is planning on sharing a fact about hemophilia every day of the month. Encourage you to like us on Facebook to see those daily updates and to share those facts with others. So, Gary, I do have one question that came in. Question is, curious about stress when it pours out in anger, not violence, but just words that are difficult to forget. What would you suggest on dealing with that issue?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think anger is a common, normal reaction to stress. I think the stress builds up and it doesn't get released, it doesn't get acknowledged, and it builds up, and then it's usually something little tiny that triggers it. And it's like the things that are really scaring us, really frustrating us, we're not acknowledging, and so some little tiny thing will just trigger and it will just come out as anger. One thing that therapists talk about is that anger is what we call a covering emotion. It's very easy to get angry, and it's not so easy to show sadness. It's not so easy to acknowledge fear, but it's easy to get angry, at least in our American culture. And I think sometimes the anger is a cover for fear, for sadness, for disappointment. And if you've ever been extremely disappointed and you just felt so awful or extremely sad and you didn't really know how to talk about it, but then somebody bumped into you or some little thing happened and you just blew up. So I think it's just a way of releasing the stress. So I think there are a couple things to do here. One is to be proactive. If you're talking about things that scare you, that you're nervous, frustrated about, if you're talking and talking about your emotions, expressing your emotions, I think you're less likely to have that trigger point for the anger. And secondly, when you're feeling angry, I think it's important to acknowledge it, to say, you know, I'm really in a bad place today, and I'm a little on edge. I don't want to blow up. I just want to let you know I'm not having a good day. To let that out, to let other people know how you're feeling, to kind of, it's like kind of like doing a sound check. So I think being proactive and just talking about how you're feeling, you're less likely to have these blow-ups. And if this is something that happens with you once in a while, you can sit down with everybody in the house and say, look, sometimes things really build up with me, and you know, I might say something really angry, and I'm going to feel really bad about it, and we're going to talk about it. I'm really going to try not to do that. I'm working on that. When it happens, just know that it's not you. That it's just I'm just having a bad day, and I'm working on that. And then apologize afterwards as well. So again, it's if you're constantly talking about your feelings, you're less likely to blow up. And when you do, just let people know, sometimes I blow up, I'm working on it, and maybe you can support me. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's great. Another question that has come in is about children and stress, and you talked about that quite a bit during the presentation, which I personally found fascinating because I see that in my own kids. But the question is how long does it kind of take as a parent to realize those cues that might not come out as anger, but what other ways do children act out their stress?
That's a good question. Kids will maybe not. Just what I always tell parents is to watch for changes from the normal. I mean, I'm so glad you asked me this question because I wish I'd said it before. Watch for what's not normal with your child. I mean, some kids are naturally quiet. So if your child's quiet, well, he's always quiet. Or they naturally don't like certain foods, or they naturally whatever. If you see changes, if you see a normally outgoing child isolating or suddenly having fights with friends when they didn't fight with these friends before, or if you see changes in your child's eating habits, suddenly really picky about eating, or wanting to eat different things, or maybe not sleeping well, you know, just big changes, or shutting down, again, going off by themselves, not enjoying things that they used to do, maybe not wanting to watch TV, not playing on the computer, or escaping on the computer. You know, anything that's a big change from the normal, or a minor change from the normal, I just would say keep an eye on it and talk to your child. And, you know, you used to like this, you don't like it anymore. You seem to want to, you know, you seem to only want this, and what's going on, or how are you feeling? What's going on with you? Or I noticed that you're kind of staying in your bedroom a lot. Are you okay? Would you like to talk about this with me? How can I help you? Or you've been friends with, you know, Tommy for years, and now you're fighting with him all the time. What's going on? You don't like him anymore? Or, you know, you used to watch TV with us, and now you don't. Or now you're arguing with your brother all the time. What's going on? And I think pointing out things that you notice that are different, and saying, let's talk about this. Talk to me about it. How can I help you?
So it really comes down to communication.
Starting that conversation, exactly. Yep.
All right. Well, if no one else has any more questions, we are just over an hour with tonight's webinar. I just wanted to thank you, Gary, once again for your expertise and your knowledge tonight. It's been very, very helpful. Thank everyone who has attended. This will be recorded and put on our HFA YouTube website very, very soon, and we will be sending out a link to a SurveyMonkey evaluation tool to all our participants, just to let us know how we're doing and what other topics you might like to see us do on our webinar series in 2014 and in the future. So with that, I will say good night, and thank you to all of you for participating tonight. I hope you all have a great evening, and hope to see you very soon, maybe even at Symposium at the end of next month. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.